Hello everyone and welcome to this impromptu video brought to you by the oppressive heat of the Scottish summer. I cannot slumber for it, so I'm staying up because trying to sleep right now would be a fruitless effort and I'd rather stay up and drink whiskey with you guys. 10-year-old Talisker from the Isle of Skye, famous for its fairy pools, not the whiskey, but the island. I have a friend from the Isle of Skye. It's a beautiful place. I've never been, but I've heard tale. So what I'm going to do for you tonight is I'm going to drink some whiskey for you, and I'm going to talk through some questions from the week. Now, what attracts me to this particular whiskey is the peatiness. I'm quite keen on peaty whiskies. I've got a selection here from from over the spectrum of peat. On the most extreme end, I've got the most peaty whiskey on the market here. And then I've got one that's not peaty at all. Each of them are $100 bottles. I've really been keen on spending my student loan on whiskey recently. As I come to the end of my course, I feel entitled to do so. So I'm going to walk you through some of that. But also, I want to speak about some of the big issues of the week. Now, I recently purchased a Himalayan salt lamp, and I don't recommend you do it. I had it sitting off camera here to the side. It was blasting a beautiful golden hue onto my face. However, the bulb exploded due to overheating, and that was probably my fault because I left it on for far too long and then I dropped it, so it may have something to do with that. Now, I've had friends who've owned Himalayan salt lamps and they have licked them. That seems to be the authenticity test. However, I will just go through the kinesthetic and visual route. I don't feel like touching my tongue with it. I don't want to taste it, because I ordered it on Amazon and I don't lick things that I order online. It has a little hole in it there, that's where the goblin lives. I think that's the whole thing, you know, they sell you these lamps just to get goblins into your home, and of course once they're in your home and they make their way into the walls, it's difficult to get them out. So you drink whiskey, and then when they drink your blood in the evening, you know, when you're sleeping, they die because they can't tolerate the alcohol. Which brings me to my first question. Why is it so hard to reason with religious people? So the atheist asks, religious people cling to their beliefs even in the face of contradicting evidence because their belief strongly resonates with their moral sentiments. For me, I've noticed for many religious person, their minds are dominated by their emotions like empathy, while the mind of non-believers are dominated with critical thinking. Now, I don't think unreasonableness is endemic to religious populations. There are atheists who have unreasonable beliefs. For instance, there's atheists who believe in flat earth. There's also atheists who believe weed can cure cancer. So what the heart of this question must be is, believing in God is dumb. And that's just not a very sophisticated argument to make. Now, the idea that non-believers are more critically inclined, potentially there might be something to that, but I haven't seen any studies to prove this. I mean, there's probably just thinking about it anecdotally, I mean, there's a greater population of religious people in the world, and so there's gonna be more critical thinkers among them. But then, you know, there's so many different stratas of like where that critical thinking can be very powerful and then where it can be weak just even in one person. So one person might be epistemologically very critical, but then ontologically not very critical at all. There's different levels of it. So yeah, it's a very complicated question if you want to look at it in a lot of detail, but I don't agree that religious people are especially unreasonable. I just don't think there's any merit to that argument at all. And you know, the idea of believing in something for which there's contradictory evidence, that's not necessarily absurd either. That's basically scientific inquiry. It's a whole dialogue of contradictory ideas as you try and get to that truth. So holding to a belief for which there is contradictory evidence, no, it's not at all an absurd notion. Now, believing in something for which there is a demonstrably, objective, empirically false conclusion, you know, something that's provably and undeniably on those, you know, empirical objective, you know, terms, You know, that would be absurd to hold to a belief in that instance. However, contradictory evidence, that's not absurd at all, you know? And it just depends. I mean, if it's the idea that belief in God is false, then yeah, that's, you know, I could take hours to unpack it. First of all, it's not unreasonable to believe in God. It's not. That's the end of that debate. It's not unreasonable. You can say it's unreasonable, but it's not. Okay? There are reasons to believe in God. And it depends. You know, a lot of atheists, the most sophisticated idea of God is a big muscular man sat on a golden throne in the clouds with long white beard, you know, demanding things of people. And that's demonstrably false, that idea of God. You know, and that's easy to falsify, and no one believes in that God. So there, take that. And that takes me to the beginning of the spectrum of my whiskies, which is the Glenfiddich. I like to say Glenfiddich. I don't like to say Glenfiddich. Some people say Glenfiddich. I say Glenfiddich. It's not a peaty one. It's described as candied fruits, and Glenfiddich freshness balances richer notes of dried apricot, more cinnamon and toffee, ginger and dry sherry. So we're talking a lot of sweet notes here, and you know, it's an 18-year-old bottle. It's a really special thing. Love that little pop as you take the cork off. Now it smells gorgeous. There's some heat to it, not the same firecrackery, bonfirey, campy. Well, not the same heat that comes from a peat, but let's go for it. It doesn't have the same fire, but it is a delicious whiskey, and I think I would recommend the Glenfiddich over the Talisker, just because I've been stuck on peaty things. So, just for the past 9 months, this is just refreshing. As you can see, I've finished the bottle. This wasn't drunk all in one sitting. I've had these bottles for a while, but yeah, gorgeous thing. So go for the Glenfiddich if you can. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're worth the investment. Get a good student loan and put it to good use. So yeah, definitely a really beautiful, refreshing, sweet thing there. So, recently people took to the streets of Glasgow to march for independence. Scottish had its national referendum on September 2014, and the Scottish population voted against independence. So, currently the United Kingdom is ruled from Westminster in London, that's the Parliament there, and we wanted to fully devolve powers to the Scottish Parliament in Holyrood, Edinburgh, the Scottish capital. However, this was not done because 55% of the Scottish population voted against independence. And a recent vote on leaving the EU, well, it was marginally won by a marginal majority. I don't remember the exact figure, if it was like 52% voted for leaving the EU. But 62% of Scottish people are for the EU. So this is the justification for a new independence referendum, because such a vast majority of Scottish people want to remain in the in the European Union. Evidently, a majority want to remain in the United Kingdom as well. So on the Scottish postcard, you have this Highlander idea, the guy in his kilt and everything with his sword out, you know, maybe clutching a bottle of whiskey too. And, you know, this William Wallace idea, this freedom fighter, this great liberator, these brave people who want their own sovereignty. That's the romantic idea of the Scot. But there's a more subtle, ideologically popular idea in Scotland, and that's a love of the centralisation of power and a timidity about stepping out and leading ourselves. There's that sort of contradiction in the Scottish character, I think, you know? And that internationally, there's this romantic idea, as I say, of the independent warrior, whereas in reality, that's just not the case at all. You know, there's a socialist ideology that permeates the country, and until we sit down and work that out, we're never going to achieve any kind of independence because, quite frankly, we don't want it. You know, sure, you know, 55 to 45%, not a lot in it, but the majority, I mean, if you took a vote on independence today, latest polling shows that more people are for keeping us in the United Kingdom now. And of course, there can be many reasons for that. Perhaps the Scots are thinking, actually, you know, we want to stay outside of the EU, so let's stay in the Union or whatever. It can get really complicated and messy to get into. But needless to say, Scottish people, we're a contrary race, you know, we're a people of contradiction. So that brings me to Lagavulin. And you know, I've seen a lot of Scottish whiskies in a lot of American television shows and films. If ever there's a boardroom or an office of some flashy lawyer, like in Suits or Designated Survivor, or even Parks and Recreation, which is what this whiskey features in, you're always going to find a Scottish whiskey. It's almost like the market for Scottish whiskey reaches over that pond, over the Atlantic and into those Hollywood productions. Lagavulin, obviously a nice attractive case and a lovely attractive bottle. Again, the people on this website will be able to tell you more than I can. So they describe it as very thick and rich, a massive mouthful of malt and sherry with good fruity sweetness, but also a wonderful sweetness, big, powerful peat and oak. As you can see, I don't know if you can, it's quite a dark bottle, but there's probably only 25 mils left in here. This bottle was really enjoyed. It smells wonderful. It really is that nectar, that caramel taste that attracts me to the whiskey. It's like, I don't know, it's like kissing the lips of one of those goblins that sneak into your house through the Himalayan salt lamps, you know, well seasoned. No, it's just gorgeous. I really would highly, strongly recommend Lagavulin over the Talisker, over the Glenfiddich. This one here wins out. So the last question I have online is, let's see, here we go. So this military guy says, I've just been told by a few people something I never knew about myself. I'm honestly a big softie, but apparently I come across as intimidating because supposedly I'm pretty interactive in my speech. How can I be less intimidating and a lot softer? Is it better to be intimidating or to be soft? What are the benefits or losses of each? Well, there's probably nothing wrong with the guy, you know. I think it depends on the groups you hang around with. Like, you know, I've been through some nonsense recently, and that can really affect your perception of self. If you have to endure meeting just a small group of people who have an idea of you, and you're constantly eat, sleep, repeat that cycle, that can come to affect how you see yourself, you know, and you might think to yourself, oh, is there something wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong here? Chances are you're just in a bit of a nasty environment, or maybe you've rubbed someone the wrong way and maybe they're just particularly vindictive and there's nothing you can do about it, and you just have to try and get away from that scene as quick as you can. It could also signify there's a problem with you, but don't rake yourself over the coals about it. Try and be as objective about it as you possibly can be. Say, look, if you can sit down and open up to yourself and say, look, maybe I've got these issues, maybe I can work on that, then do so. But if it comes to a point where you have worked on it and you're still, you know, meeting with hostility, or there seems to be irrevocable misunderstandings going on, then just try and get yourself out of that scene in the least dramatic fashion. That'd be my advice. So that takes me to the peatiest whiskey on the market right now. Now, this has got a strange name, and I had to look up how exactly you pronounce it, and I don't seem to have that at hand just now, so I'm just going to show you. Lafrogue, I would pronounce that as Lafrogue. Lafrague? Lafrogue. I'd say Lafrogue. Lafroig. Lafroig. There we go. I don't know what that means. But this is an Islay whiskey, which the Lagavulin is as well, if I'm not mistaken. And that would describe, or rather inform me as to why it's such a peaty whiskey. There's a place obviously renowned for its peat soil. So this is the most richly flavoured of Scotch whiskies. 1815, it's an old one. What is this anyway? I don't know how old the bottle is. My eyes are bouncing around all the information. Let's see. I don't know, I'll open it up and we'll see. I think it's really funny that on the lid it says, like sushi on a rusty plate, and that's from a friend of the company. So here we go. It's a rather, it's a rather nice bottle. Unlike the others, it doesn't seem to advertise the age. All the other ones are boasting of being old. I can't actually find anything that would tell me the age of it. There might be something you can find online there, but yeah, doesn't say. But yeah, how do I feel about this one? Well, I've only been drinking some of it recently. Let's see what they say about it. Here we go. Actually, how to pronounce it? Yeah. Bear in mind, blah 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 blah. You know what? I don't actually. No, here we go. So it's iconic enough as liquid campfire. So you may already know how it's pronounced, but just in case you want to give up on that second syllable, don't. Just whisper Lafrogue. Okay, that's just obviously a website on how to pronounce it. I'll just give you my impression of it. Obviously it's been described as sushi served on a rusty plate. I'll tell you what I think of it. Oh aye. Liquid campfire is a good way to describe it. It's certainly ashy, has an ashiness to it, but it's not without, I would say, a kind of burnt caramel. It has that attractive note that always attracts me to whiskey, that kind of caramel to it. And I would describe it as burnt. It is very fiery, very well, fiery's wrong, gives you the wrong idea. It's warming and obviously very peaty, but it's not disgusting. It's not, I wouldn't describe it as like sushi on a rusty plate. I don't know why they put that on the tin. Obviously it caught my eye and got me to buy some, but no, I don't know, it's not bad. I would definitely recommend buying a bottle if you wanted to sample the full range of Scottish whiskies, particularly on the peaty side. But Glenfiddich stands out for me because it's one that isn't peaty, but I've really enjoyed recently. So this one really stands out for me, and the Lagavulin, that would be my recommendations based on this lot. So get yourself some of them. I'm going to finish off my Talisker tonight. Again, lovely golden hue to it. So thanks for joining me. Just really taking it a bit easy just now, and hopefully I'll have something a bit more meaty and juicy for you later on in the month. Okay, all the best, bye.